And yeah, Neopets is really interesting because a lot of our players are women. So we
Right,
have like
right.
our team is actually largely women as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, just trying to like be more open and inviting and yeah, practice what you preach. If you're
Yeah.
more like diversity in women in your company, like make sure your leadership and stuff is showcasing that.
Welcome back to the Everybody Has a podcast. My name is Marco Santana, and I am joined today by Deanna Galbraith. Deanna, great to see you. Let me just first of all say I appreciate you coming on the show, and yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
No, so tell me, like you are someone I ran into in Orlando through kind of the gaming industry. Let's talk first of all. Let's just tell people first of all what you're doing now, what you're working on. I think it's pretty cool that our network in Orlando has so many people in some really cool industries. Talk about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, I'm a producer at Neopets at the Fluffy Dog Studio, and yeah, mostly work on the classic website, which has been actually
Yeah,
celebrating 25 years this year, and
25 years.
yeah,
Wow.
25 years. Yeah, we're going on.
Right.
And and most recently, our just released a mobile game, Tales of Decardia.
Well, what's that been like for you? Because I think the name Neopets for people of a certain generation just kind of brings out some emotion because it was a lot of at least when I was in my I don't know probably mid to late 20s, just a lot of teenagers were doing the Neopets thing. What's that been like for you to kind of work on this? The name has to be. I mean, that had to be pretty cool when you first hired it to be like, oh my god, I'm working on this thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah. When I was doing the interview process, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest interview process I've ever been through. I wasn't sure if I was going to get the job and stuff. But yeah, it's just been very exciting. Like, at first, it was really interesting because I joined initially as a game design lead, and
Right.
I did that for a few years. And that was really interesting because the site, it's actually still going through like a revamp where we have like the old 90s style of the website and we're like
Aren't,
converting
aren't we? Aren't we all going through a constant revamp?
yeah, for sure. But yeah, kind of converting everything to HTML5 and stuff. So that's been an interesting journey there.
It's been interesting for me because I think Neopets was kind of bridged the gap of like um, super interactive, super multiplayer, super gaming versus like way back in the day when it was just home console and that's it, right? From
Mhm.
your perspective, I mean, I assume you're something of a gamer. I believe we met on the gaming scene in Orlando. So, like, from your perspective, what's kind of the difference between or what's it like to kind of work in this like multiplayer type thing where you're kind of as a team anyway, you're building worlds and just being creative. What's it like to kind of be able to flex your creativity?
Oh, it's just so much to do with Neopets.
Yeah,
Like just as from like the design and like player perspective, the game appeals to like a bunch of different player archetypes. So we have like customizers, people who play through like the battle domes, so they're more about like leveling up their pets and about stats and
right.
stuff. And then we have like other people who just like being like a quote unquote merchant, just like restocking and selling like a bunch of like items and stuff and making money from that. Um, so it's yeah, just trying to understand like all of these different systems and like features and stuff that we have on the site has been like a really interesting challenge.
That's so cool. I mean, I think world building and like obviously you look at like World of Warcraft and then those kinds of games are the ones that like are the granddaddies of them all type of thing. But
Mhm.
there's also Animal Crossing, right, which is a little bit less in your face violence and stuff like that. But there and what is it? Harvest Moon or something. There's a couple games out there that are just doing this thing. Why do you think that this is such a appealing kind of genre for people. Like I don't get it. I have my own life I can barely take care of, so I don't want to take care of some avatar's life. But why do you think it's such an appealing genre?
I think it's just it appeals to different types of players, and then there's just a lot of areas on the site where you can just express different interests and kind of like express yourself. We have like a lot of customization features, so people can like customize their pets. Like if you're a goth girly, you can dress up your pet in goth clothes. If you are like a battle domer, you can have like your pets being like wearing like shields and armor and stuff like
Right,
that. But we also have a bunch of contests and stuff on the site. So if you're a big customizer, there's like a customization spotlight, so you can like show off your customizations and stuff there. We have poetry contests, so like a lot of different ways you can
that's
like
amazing. 'Cause it's like
be creative.
you're just kind of like creating an ecosystem for people to live in. Now, I have a couple of questions actually following up on that because I think one of them is what's the coolest like I know this is hard to decide. I'm sure you've seen many. What are some of the coolest ideas when you see like customization, just kind of from your general kind of player population, and also you know what goes through your mind and maybe through your team's Slack channel or something when you have this you realize you created this thing to let people just throw out their creativity and just kind of build like I said earlier. I mean, I think this is one of the coolest things about this game.
Yeah, the players are so creative. The Our content and like live ops team comes up with like all these really cool items like wings and like makeup and like tails and stuff like that. And just the players will put everything together and it's like, wow, I didn't even think about that combination. Like that's crazy. And I think like the players also come up with lots of different ideas for actual items that we could release. Like I think
Okay.
one item that kind of came from player feedback was wanting to do like different color like eye contacts and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that's something that we did too recently.
So for you, when you guys see the I mean, it's one thing to create a world, right? It's another thing I feel to have people actually live in the world and enjoy the world and really appreciate the world. Obviously, you guys have a huge following from years back, right? Is there like it's hard to find the right questions. I'm trying to get at like when it comes to it's one thing to like okay, you're working on this every day to day, but then holy shit, people actually are gravitating toward it. That's gotta feel really awesome inside, like when you see that just the user base kind of still going on so long after. You said 25 years, right?
Yeah, 25. And yeah, oh my gosh, the community is so passionate. Anytime we release anything, like we have this daily quest feature called the quest log on the website. Anytime we like update or rotate the prize pools, it's like somebody right away on Discord or Reddit is being like, "Oh my gosh, you see this update? They just did this. This new item is in here." But yeah, it's just really motivating, fulfilling to be like working on something and like being able to put it out and having people to notice it right away.
Talk about when you started because I think when you first kind of heard, and again we were in the same circles. We weren't necessarily like have one-on-one chats or anything like that, but we were in the same circles. And I think I remember you kind of telling everybody that about and people were so like excited for you because here's a known entity, right? That you're going to be able to go. How did you get the job? Why did you apply? What has it what was it like initially when you first heard that you were going to be working on Neopets, whatever the next step of Neopets was going to be.
Yeah, yeah. I happened to see the role on LinkedIn, and I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. I had been doing game design for several years at that point, and I kind of wanted to like move up a little bit. And yeah, I applied. The the interview process was so hard. I was like, did not think I was gonna pass. I was like, okay, I'm just doing this for the interview experience, and and stuff, and
How many
learning.
interviews were there? How many levels of interview were there?
There was only three, but I think the design
Okay.
test was the hardest because it was a design lead role. So the interview was like being live with like two people, one that worked directly with the team and like a product manager.
Mhm.
And they were like, hey, we have this website. Like, please like redesign it in Miro, and like we'll watch you. Like feel free to ask questions, stuff like that.
Oh
So you're really
wow,
in the spot. Yeah, yeah. So
that's
I was
insane.
trying to.
That's insane. I couldn't do anything with people watching me. I could barely do this with knowing people are going to watch me later. That's phenomenal though. So you got through the process. I mean, I imagine those you had to have been super proud that you didn't just buckle under the pressure. I mean, was that like the first time you'd ever been in that kind of situation, or had you done that before?
Uh, yeah, it was the first time in that situation. Like, in the past, it was like design tests that I had were like through email. You get, and then you get like a certain
Right.
amount of time to do it, and then you can just submit it, and then they'll, maybe you might get an interview. But yeah, that was my first like.
It's more concept than real time. It's more concept than real time uh, testing.
Right. But yeah, when they sent that, hey, like you got the job, I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it for like a bit, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta tell people now.
It's really
um,
bizarre, right? Because I think one of the things about just any employment in general, right? It's especially when you kind of shoot for that next level.
mhm,
I don't care who you are. I feel like there are certain people maybe they're just built differently, but most people, it's a some of the people that you see the most successful, they had that same feeling when they first got hired, right? Like some of the
mhm,
most successful computer programmers might have like when they first got hired at insert major tech company here, they're still like, oh my god, how the hell did I? Right? Obviously, you adapt and you grow into the role. But
mhm.
I feel like that's kind of a shared experience we all have. Like, you know, you can't really go anywhere if you don't try. And I love that whole. I know it sounds cheesy, but if people who know me well, they know I'm cheesy as hell. But I think one of the things it's really cool that like there's this the excitement I see when people get new jobs and new positions and positions they maybe in their 10-year-old mind never would have thought they'd be able to do. I feel like that's a great thing of growth. I mean, I imagine with you it had to be the first step was kind of like, okay, who do I meet here?
Yeah, yeah, it was actually an interesting challenge for that because it's like a fully remote role. So
Right,
it was me having to be like, hey, like, is it okay if I set up like a one-on-one? Just want to like get to know you and like
right.
how you run the your team and stuff. Um, and yeah, just really having to put myself out there. Now it's a lot easier for newcomers because we have like every Friday we do like a creative block slash game night
Yeah.
slash movie night stuff. So have more team related activities and
Are
stuff.
you fully? Are you remote? Are you fully remote or no?
Yeah, I'm fully remote.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So you're are you Orlando or Central Florida?
I was in Orlando for a bit, but now I'm in Tampa.
Okay.
But we just, yeah, I recently moved into like the producer role, and we hired our new design lead is actually in Orlando.
Oh, cool, awesome. So, let's talk a little. So, I love the conversation. I think there's a lot of just your experience. I think is pretty cool. Can you talk to me a little bit about just women in gaming? I mean, obviously we're going to talk about this,
Mhm.
and I know from if I recall from you, you were someone who was very passionate about just trying to spread the word that women are gamers, women are building games. I mean, and they don't. It's not like they're looking for any special treatment. They just want treatment, you know. Talk a little bit about just the industries. I think video games probably more than tech have a bigger problem because there is that
Right.
culture of some sort of toxicity sometimes. Not to bring up super negative things, but there is this
Mhm.
toxicity of male. Sometimes some male gamers sometimes are like are territorial. And I mean, obviously, I think it's bullshit, right? But I think can you talk a little bit about just from your perspective, you know, what role you think people like you who are on the back end of these games can play when it comes to early discussion to making sure games are, appealing to women, appealing to I mean, all genders, frankly.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that a little bit, just kind of the mindset?
Yeah, yeah. I think we just have to have like a really welcoming environment, especially like when hiring too. I think
Yeah.
verbiage and like job descriptions and stuff is really important. Also, like in your leadership team, like making sure like there's diversity and stuff there. Um, And yeah, Neopets is really interesting because a lot of our players are women. So we
Right,
have like
right.
our team is actually largely women as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, just trying to like be more open and inviting and yeah, practice what you preach. You know, if you're
Yeah,
putting more like diversity in women in your company, like make sure your leadership and stuff is showcasing that.
yeah. I think one of the things that I've always thought, and I have I don't know why I'm hesitating because I know this. I have two sisters and three nieces, right? And so like and they're all gamers, right? One of them is a Zelda freak, the other one's a freak for Mario, and that's and I love that because I'm a freak for both of them as well. But like so to me, it's always been it's bizarre to me. I feel like people who are who are toxic and who are just angry human beings, frankly, they should someone should give them a sister or someone should give them some woman in their life to like let them kind of realize like how this affects how this can affect. And again, this is not just for women. It's any gender, any identity, because I think that to me is we get better games when more heads are involved, right? When more ideas are involved, when more perspectives are involved. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, as you're there at Neopets and you're kind of coming up with new ideas, and can you talk about the process of just kind of like bouncing ideas off each other? Obviously, like you said, mostly women on your team. So, um, you know, let me guess, because you have mostly women, nothing broke down, right? It wasn't like the world didn't blow up because more women than men at this team.
Yeah, our creative process is really collaborative. We work a lot in like Figma products. So we have Figma for like wireframing and stuff. But for the brainstorming part, we use FigJam. And we like to just do lots of brainstorming sessions. Even if you're not on directly on the live ops team or content team to like create these items, like you're like other people from like other teams are still invited because it's always nice to have like different perspectives and ideas from different people. So yeah, we'll normally do lots of brainstorming and stuff in there.
How big of a team is Neopets now, roughly?
I believe we're around maybe like 40 or so. Yeah.
What was it? So, when you look at some of the things that you're doing, some of the public facing, right? I think that's the one thing about this industry that's interesting. Is like you will be told whether you're doing shit right or not, because you have a public facing product, a public facing company, and I talk, but like even more so in this kind of situation, where you're doing this multiplayer, right. Can you talk about the feedback from the community? Not necessarily, give me all the pluses and minuses, but how important is that people go out there and they dive into whatever you're releasing, so they give you real feedback, not just "oh, it looks great" or "oh, it looks like shit." I mean, you want them to really experience it. What's that like, or how important is that to kind of get that educated feedback rather than just like knee jerk reaction?
Yeah, yeah, we always take feedback like from the players. Like we're always actively like looking for it. We actually built a community ambassador program
Mm.
to like help get that feedback and facilitate feedback directly to us. So we always looking at feedback and appreciate anything. I mean, we'll look at stuff with a grain of salt,
Right, right.
but we always appreciate the feedback. Yeah.
You are someone who you've lived everywhere. You have traveled. You've moved so many places. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about how? Let me run down the list here because you know this, but people don't know. Mexico, Florida, Michigan, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. That's a lot. What kind of necessitated those moves? Was it you? Was it family? What was that? And kind of what's it like to kind of go into a new area and try to kind of make a community?
Yeah, yeah, that was really interesting growing up. It was mostly just because of family.
Okay.
But yeah, it made it really interesting. It made me see different types of like cultures and people, and like different ways of living. Like living in Michigan with all the snow, for example, is completely different than living here in Florida.
I
So just
agree. I'm from Chicago.
yeah, and as a kid growing up, it's like being able to like experience all of that. was really cool. I mean, there was a period there where it was just like when I did find a school and friends and stuff I really liked, it was a little disappointing to move.
Yeah.
But I did like, looking back, it's like, wow, I learned like a lot, met all sorts of like really cool people.
So one thing I loved about your what you told me about yourself is, when did you start collecting signed books? Because that is probably the most unique response I've gotten to that so far. Because I think again, I am a reader, right? I'm a writer, so by naturally, if to be a better writer, you have to read a lot, right?
Mhm.
But like, when did that start for you?
Yeah, I went through a period of time where I was just like insanely reading books. Like I had the Kindle subscription and I was
Right.
killing maybe one or two books a week. And I was doing like that Goodreads reading challenge. And yeah, it got me and with reading lots of books.
So what kind of books do you like? Do you like fiction, nonfiction, all of the above?
Yeah, I like fiction, fantasy, like
Okay.
think like Game of Thrones and stuff.
Yeah.
With some romance. And yeah, I ended up like finding like some favorite authors, and then got me into signed books, and then that got me into book collecting in general,
Yeah.
and
So
it
did
kind of
you?
like
So when you first got the signature, I mean, did you see? Did they come to town and you happen to have it with you, or did you buy the signed versions at the live or at the store, or how did that start?
yeah, a lot of the authors have their own websites, so I try to like
Okay.
want to support the authors and stuff. So I try, if they have their own website, I'll like buy directly through them, and they'll have like signed books.
Ah.
Barnes and Noble also, for limited periods of times, will offer signed versions of books, and then you can also get them like on eBay and like a books, I think it's called.
Okay. But what is it about reading? I mean, obviously, like, so I'm a consumer as well, right? I like to consume. I mean, let me make that clear. I consume media as well. Obviously, we're all consumers. We're all buy stuff. But I mean, I like to watch movies. I like to watch television. I like to play video games. Obviously, I like to read books. I mean, why? What is it about for you? About reading that like kind of I imagine, or maybe I'm assuming, but is this like a preferred media, or do you like to read? Is that what you do for enjoyment? I mean, what is it about reading that you enjoy so much?
Yeah, I love reading just for fun. I really like all like the world building and being
Yeah,
able to immerse myself in like these fantasy worlds and stuff. And honestly, it's actually a really good inspiration for like game ideas too.
yeah, yeah, no, 100.
um,
Percent
yeah.
Way back in the day when I was a kid, I read The Hobbit. Right, that was when I was a kid. Everyone's read The
Mhm.
Hobbit, but that's not so surprising. But I had never read a fantasy book, right? So I read The Hobbit, and I really wish I remember her name, but I went up to the librarian and I said, and this little old lady, I'm like a little
Oh.
12, 8 to 10-year-old kid, just kind of here's The Hobbit, and I'm like I'm like, hey, this was awesome. Like, what else can I read that's like this? And obviously, she gave me Lord of the Rings, right? So ever since then, like that has been my jam. Right? I literally watched Return of the King today, or pardon me, like last week. I keep watching them over and over again because I just love that genre. And I'm
Mhm.
also when I play video games, I love games like The Witcher, games like
Oh
all
yeah.
the Final Fantasy series. It's like I feel like accidentally reading really established like who I am now. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So, what is your genre? What I know you said the fantasy. Is there a certain series? I read the Dragonlance series. I don't know if you ever read that one. That's like an old school classic in the fantasy genre.
Oh, I remember absolutely loving the Aragon series. I can't
Okay.
remember what the
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
Love,
awesome.
yeah, that one's really awesome. Most recently, the Akatar series from Sarah J. Maas. That one's a really good one. Also
Okay.
fantasy. Um,
Well, I mean, you mentioned earlier how kind of this, like, I'm a storyteller, right? You're a storyteller as well, right? In the medium that you guys do, you guys have to create campaigns, create,
right. Mhm.
just information. Um, can you talk a little more about just how diving into other worlds through literature kind of informs? It's not like you're saying, okay, this is an idea, I'm going to steal it. But I feel it's almost like the inspiration is there because you're able to let go, able to jump into their world, and then can you talk about that element of your reading history, like your reading career, I guess we call it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's just really good examples for like world building and just
Hmm.
like character building too. Like, maybe the character like isn't like that confident, but then by the end of the book or series, like they're just like this kick butt like character.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's just really really good for inspiration for like that aspect because like you can take that into like into like your games and stuff.
Well, it's cool because I think the more that I consume media, whether it's movies or books or television arcs, is that there is that arc, right? There is that hero's
Mhm.
journey type thing, and even though it's used over and over and over and over and over again, if it's done right and done well, it's still an awesome. Like I'm playing for I don't know the third time. I'm playing The Witcher 3 again, right? This is like a game from like 15 years ago, 12 years ago. But the story arc to me, like that yeah, it's over 100 hours or something like that. But the fact that they build that story arc and are able to tell this great story about this well, he's not a person obviously, but just that's what inspired me as a kid, right? I think I actually ran to video games, but I'm so glad I did because of the story time. And now what am I? I'm a storyteller. So I think I love that whole aspect. So we talk about inspiration a little bit. I know you mentioned somebody, Genova Chan, right?
Oh, yes, yeah,
What's that all about? Tell me a little bit about that.
yeah. While I was studying for game design, I discovered indie games and
Hmm.
I came across Journey, and I was just like, wow, like these are like the games like I'd love to like make and stuff.
Right.
And yeah, he's just been a big professional influencer since. I just really like how he approaches game design is like with theming.
Yeah.
So with Journey, it was very much like um, yeah, just like the finding a friendship like along the way and stuff.
Hmm. Well, I love Journey because I mean, I remember when Journey first came out, and everyone was like, "What the hell is this?" Like initially, like
Yeah,
no one
yeah,
really got it, right? I mean,
yeah.
and I think that, but like over the years, people are like, okay, this can be done with video games. This kind of
Mhm.
emotional kind of connection. I mean, back in the day when I was Mario and I saved the princess, I was like, cool, I saved the princess, right? That was a obviously that was a trope of those days, right?
Yeah.
Um, but like you have this accomplishment, right? Even in The Witch, like I said, when you help a villager, right? When you help or you finish off and you find Siri, and all this stuff. I mean, you know, it's to me it speaks to me about how where we are, right, in as a gaming community, where you can tell these emotional stories. I mean, there's a reason HBO and everyone, HBO and everyone else is trying to figure out the right video game franchises to turn into programming, right? Because the stories are there, they just have to put the visuals behind it. Can let's talk about that again? This is my show, so let's talk about whatever I want to talk about. So
Yeah.
let's talk about shows like The Last of Us, shows like Fallout, right? Honestly, I never played Fallout, but I watched the show and it was awesome. So now I want to play Fallout. So I mean, Can you talk a little bit about that? I'm not asking you to solve the industry's problems, obviously, but just seeing kind of like how the whole community or society is really coming around like holy shit, these are really adult storylines being told. Talk about that a little bit, how the it's almost like gaming is driving a lot of Hollywood right now, just if not
Mhm.
directly, indirectly.
Yeah, so I think that it kind of goes back to Genova Chan a little bit in the way like he
Yeah.
kind of approaches games like with like just really thought provoking and like emotionally like using emotional storytelling
Right.
techniques or environmental storytelling techniques. Um, and yeah, I feel like something is really more impactful too when you're like really like it's affecting you like emotionally, and you're really immersed.
Right.
Like you mentioned with like crying with playing some games. Like I love this game called Gris or Grease.
Mhm.
Um, and oh my gosh, yeah, I definitely cried playing that game. And yeah, it's just so like emotionally impactful. And I feel like yeah, movies are trying to like just kind of replicate that, because in games
Yeah.
it's so impactful because you're immersed in it, and you're as you're playing, like things are happening like based off the stuff and decisions and stuff that you do.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just taking. It comes down to taking games seriously, right? I was born and raised in the '80s and '90s, right? And in that time, there was a thing called the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. It was shit. It was terrible. It was terrible. But like I think at that point, like people weren't taking games seriously, right? So they threw
Mhm.
out all these like silly things. Like I think there could be a really cool Mario movie made now. That there was that the Super
Oh
Mario
yeah,
Brothers
there
movie,
was,
right?
yeah.
That was a great storyline. It was a great story.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it, but back in the day, it was like it was all they were all kind of like nudge nudge wink wink. Look at these nerds
Mhm.
playing these games, and
It was
but
ahead of
now
its
it's like
time.
what's that?
Oh, ahead of its time.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about your gaming, kind of your gaming history? Kind of when did you start gaming, and kind of at what point did you flip the switch and be like, I don't just want to play games, I want to make games?
Yeah, yeah. I played a lot of games growing up. We were like the rock band family. Like my mom would sing, I would play
Right.
guitar, and my sister played drums. And
Every neighborhood had a rock band family.
yeah, yeah, and it was Guitar Hero, and actually that inspired me to play real guitar. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I loved playing like games like that. My mom was like a big Tomb Raider fan, so I would
Oh,
play
sweet.
or not play. I would watch her play, and then I started
Right.
playing. And then yeah, play lots of MMO games, so like Terra, Guild Wars,
Right.
World of
Right.
Warcraft. Like I got into like all of that for like a long time. And then yeah, when I discovered like indie games, I started like really jumping into that for a bit. But yeah, I think like what that turning point was, and when you grow up, they're always like people are like, oh, like what do you want to be when you grow up and stuff. And for the
Right.
longest time, I didn't know like what I wanted to do. I knew it was like artsy, and I like doing like creative things, but I
Right.
wasn't the best artist. But, but yeah, one day this lady came in and was like, hey, like I do story for games, like it was like a career day we had at school,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, and that kind of like put light bulb in my head, and I was like, wait a minute, I could do this for a career.
See that's the thing. Like I think people don't always think about that. And why would they? Right? You're just playing your video game, but like there are people. There are creative directors. There are
Hmm.
you got obviously there's a lot of celebrity nowadays in certain worlds of like voice actors, right? That are just becoming this huge. Like I literally watch I'll go on YouTube and watch like a Comic Con appearance by like Troy Baker or like any other voice actor. This industry has just overtaken so many aspects of life, and I think it's awesome that that we're a part of it. So, what do you like to do? I mean, what games are you playing games, or are you just not? Are you too busy to play games, or I mean, what's your situation right now?
I have been playing a heck of a lot of Neopets.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
Neopets.
sense.
And yeah, the most recent game we did, Tales of Jakarta, I've just been playing a lot of that. I do try to fit in some Cult of the Lamb in there because I absolutely love that game, and just like the theme
Call the
of like
lamp.
yeah, just all the really dark theme. It's like cute, cute characters. I just really love it.
Right. No, I mean, and again, that goes back to like just the variety of experiences that could be had through
Hmm.
gaming. You remember that the goat was it goat that goat
Oh,
right?
Goat Simulator.
Yeah, it's like what the hell are you talking about? People like I mean, but it's like it's cathartic, right? It's cathartic to be able to do that. Um,
Yes. And speaking of that, just like the interesting simulator genre in general, like press. I think there was like pressure washer simulator,
Right,
train
right,
simulator. There's like all kinds of stuff, like
right. It all
your lawn
started with The
simulator.
Sims. It all started with The Sims, and then everyone was like, okay. Um, I mean, I want to do like a let's work together to create like a podcast simulator or something like that.
Yeah.
Some sort of like
Yeah.
really out of the world that nobody really sees coming. Um, you talk a little about again going back to your uh, questionnaire. I want to talk a little bit about just the challenges that the industry faces. It's insane, right? As a news guy, um, you know, as I'm buying this game, I hear news of this company laid off a bunch of people. It's really interesting the cycle of like of just um, game development in general. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, again, this is I'm not necessarily talking about Neopets specifically here, but I mean, just in general. I mean, you see the headlines and you see like, a lot of major companies just kind of. I won't call them tough times because they have a lot of money, but
Mhm.
at the same time, it's like once one project is done, you got to focus on the next project. And when you see that as a gaming, if someone's in the industry, what's that like for you to kind of see that?
Yeah, really disappointing because I know during COVID it was like we had like such a huge like up there
Right,
and
right.
like remote was like really big and like I think that like is really I'm always like a pro person for remote because it just helps so much with like your daily life and stuff.
Yeah,
Um but yeah, just like seeing that downturn afterwards, it was yeah, quite a bit of a hit there. And I know for like the small business and like indie space, like funding has been like so hard.
yeah. And I think it's what's interesting to me. And again, I don't know the solution, but it's like you see some of these indie studios that I think I was talking to somebody and almost called them like AAA-light, right? Where they're so good, they are so
Mhm.
deep, they are so just they challenge the best games out there, and they're from these little indie studios. Those are the studios that I want to see. I mean, again, I'm all about gaming, whether it's a big studio, a small studio, everything in
Mhm.
between. But like, see some of these like really, like I said, double A, more like double A plus studios, right? That are really
Mhm.
putting out, and they're making that whole class kind of proud, type thing, right?
Yeah, using Genova Chen as an example, like he did like the Journey game
Mm.
with a small team, and he's done a few games since. But Sky like has like been the biggest game yet, and that's grown to be like this like ongoing like live ops game, and like now they're doing like all kinds of like talks and stuff at like GDC, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole. It's almost like the Revenge of the Nerds, right? Where or the revenge, because I mean he had such a vision that was ahead of its time. No one really
Mhm.
got it, but now everyone gets it. Like, oh shit, okay, now okay, you can come and talk to us now because you know what you're talking about. But Deanna, listen, I appreciate the time, but before we let you go, this show is called the Everybody Has a Podcast because, well, everybody has a podcast, right? I think my me starting a podcast, I think officially makes it everybody in the world now has a podcast. But I asked you a question. I said, "What is the one podcast that you kind of enjoy and you listen to semi-regularly?" You said, "Rich Habits." You listen to every day. I mean, talk to me about why that podcast is the one you kind of chose to highlight here.
Yeah, something they don't really teach in school is like how you should be handling like your financials and kind of preparing for retirement and like all
Hmm.
of the really important like financial stuff that we should probably be thinking about. And yeah, that podcast has been super interesting. It talks about like how to save for retirement or even early retirement if that's something you're
Right.
interested in. And if you have any debt, like strategies to like how to pay that down and like yeah, all really good information. And it also shares like some really cool tools you can use to like help kind of monitor like your stocks and stuff like that too.
Yeah, and I think someday down the road, when you start your own game studio, all those things are going to be helpful, and you're gonna blow the hell up and make all these great games. And I'm gonna say I knew her way back in the day, and you're gonna say, "Who the hell is that guy?" But no, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, no, you'd be the first to know.
But hey, Deanna, thank you so much. Appreciate you so much. And thank you all for watching the podcast. It's funny, I keep talking like as if someone's going to stay through the whole 45 minutes, but we'll see. We'll see. But this is the Everybody Has a podcast where we chat. You guys listen, and hopefully we all have a laugh or two. Deanna, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you and look forward to following your career.
Yeah, thank you so much, and again, thanks for having me.